Let me ask you a question. When you wake up in the morning, what's the very first thought that runs through your mind? For most people, it's not strength, it's not power, it's not control, it's worry, it's stress. It's replaying yesterday's failures before the new day even begins. And without even realizing it, you've already lost the day before it started. Here's the thing. What you say to yourself matters more than what anyone else will ever say to you. You may not control the world. You may not control how people treat you. You may not control every challenge thrown your way, but you do control the conversation you have with yourself. And that inner dialogue is the foundation for everything. If your first words to yourself are excuses, you will live a life of excuses. If your first thoughts are doubts, you will walk through the day doubting every step. But if your first message is strength, if you build a ritual of telling yourself the right things, you will walk through the world differently. You'll move with confidence. You'll stand with power. You'll stop waiting for permission, and you'll start giving yourself permission to win. Too many people are waiting for motivation from the outside. They want someone to cheer them on, someone to encourage them, someone to pick them up. But the truth is, no one is going to wake you up every morning and remind you of your worth. No one is going to live inside your head and push you toward discipline. That's your job, and if you don't take control of it, life will eat you alive. So the question becomes, what do you tell yourself every single day to keep going? What words do you plant in your own mind to shape the way you face the world? Because if you don't decide, the world will decide for you. And the world is not kind. There are 5 powerful truths you need to tell yourself every single day. 5 anchors that keep you steady when life tries to pull you under. 5 commands that will reshape your mind, your habits, and your future. If you repeat these to yourself with conviction, not just once, but every single day, you won't just survive life, you'll dominate it. And today, I'm going to give them to you. I am in control of my life. That's the sentence you need to repeat to yourself every single day, because the moment you forget it, you hand over your power to the world, and the world will gladly take it. Think about how many times you've caught yourself saying, I can't because of this, or I'm stuck because of them, or life won't let me. Every time you say that, you're making yourself the passenger instead of the driver. You're sitting in the back seat of your own life, hoping someone else takes you where you want to go. But here's the truth. Nobody's coming to drive for you. If you want to get somewhere, you better grab the wheel. Control doesn't mean you decide everything that happens. Life will throw curveballs, no doubt. You don't control the economy, the weather, the people who betray you, the unexpected tragedies. But you always control how you respond. You control whether you break or whether you bend. You control whether you complain or whether you act. You control whether you let the situation define you or whether you define yourself in spite of it. That's power. That's control. And it starts with owning your decisions, not your excuses. Too many people live like victims. They spend their days pointing fingers at their past, their parents, their boss, their circumstances. And yes, those things may be real. They may be unfair. They may have caused pain, but they are not the reason you stay stuck. The reason you stay stuck is because you keep waiting for the world to change instead of changing yourself. The moment you tell yourself, I am in control of my life, you stop waiting. You stop blaming. You start moving. Let me put it bluntly, you are exactly where your decisions have led you. Harsh? Yes, but freeing too, because if your past decisions created this reality, then your next decisions can create a new one. If you hate where you are right now, good. Use it as proof that you've been giving away control for too long, and then make the choice to take it back. When you claim control, excuses die. You can't say I'm broke because of them. No, you're broke because you haven't found a way to make more. You can't say I'm unhappy because of them. No, you're unhappy because you've allowed their behavior to dictate your emotions. You can't say I don't have time. No, you have time. You're just choosing to give it away to distractions instead of your priorities. Control is about brutal honesty. And that honesty is uncomfortable, but it's the first step to freedom. Think about a thermostat versus a thermometer. A thermometer reacts to the temperature around it. If it's hot, it rises. If it's cold, it drops. It has no say, no power. It's at the mercy of the environment. That's how most people live, reacting to everything around them, letting life dictate their mood, their confidence, their effort. But a thermostat sets the temperature. It dictates the environment. It decides how hot or cold it will be, and everything else adjusts. When you wake up every day and say, I am in control of my life, you stop being a thermometer and start being a thermostat. You stop reacting and you start directing. Now let's be real. Taking control isn't glamorous. It doesn't mean everything suddenly gets easy. In fact, it's harder at first because control means responsibility. And responsibility means there's no one left to blame. If you fail, it's on you. If you waste time, it's on you. If you quit, it's on you. That's heavy, but it's also empowering. Because if the failure is yours, so is the victory. If the wasted time is yours, so is the opportunity to create more. If quitting is yours, so is the choice to keep going. Control means everything rests in your hands. And don't confuse control with perfection. You're not going to get it right every time. You're going to stumble, you're going to misjudge, you're going to make bad calls. But that's part of the process. Owning your mistakes doesn't make you weak, it makes you unstoppable, because you're learning while everyone else is still blaming. You're adjusting while everyone else is still complaining. You're growing while everyone else is standing still. Here's something powerful to remember. Life doesn't owe you fairness. It doesn't owe you ease. But it does respond to control. When you decide to take responsibility, when you stop outsourcing your power, life starts bending in your favor. Why? Because action creates momentum. When you act like the driver, doors open, opportunities appear, people take you seriously. Nobody respects a victim, but everyone respects a leader. And the first person you lead is yourself. So what does it look like in practice to tell yourself, I am in control of my life? It looks like getting up when you don't feel like it. It looks like saying no when distractions knock at your door. It looks like setting standards for how people treat you and walking away when they don't meet them. It looks like choosing discipline over comfort, progress over excuses, growth over stagnation. Every small choice is proof of your control. And here's the truth. You already know the areas where you've been giving away control. You know where you're blaming instead of owning. You know where you're waiting instead of acting. Stop pretending you don't. Face it. Confront it. Because the moment you stop lying to yourself, you take back the wheel. Tell yourself this every single morning. I am in control of my life. Say it out loud. Say it with conviction, and then live like it's true. Because the moment you start believing it, your actions will follow. And once your actions shift, your reality will shift. That's how transformation begins. Not with luck, not with other people changing, but with you deciding to take control. You don't need permission. You don't need saving. You don't need anyone else to validate your struggle. You just need to remember who's in charge of your life. And it's you. Always has been. Always will be. So stop sitting in the passenger seat. Stop waiting for someone else to drive. Get behind the wheel, grip it tight, and remind yourself every single day, I am in control of my life. I refuse to quit on myself. That's a statement you need to drill so deep into your mind that it becomes unshakable. Because here's the truth. Life is going to test you. Not once, not twice, but constantly. And when it does, the easiest option will always be to quit, to give up, to say, this is too much, I can't do it. But the moment you quit on yourself, you're not just giving up on a task or a goal. You're giving up on your own potential. You're telling yourself that you weren't worth the fight. And that's unacceptable. Let's be real. Quitting feels good in the moment. It's relief. You stop trying, you stop fighting, you stop struggling. For a brief second, you can breathe. But that relief doesn't last. Because deep down, you know you just sold yourself short. You know you chose comfort over growth. And that guilt, that disappointment in yourself, lingers far longer than the temporary pain of pushing through would have. The pain of discipline is temporary. The pain of quitting lasts forever. Refusing to quit isn't about being fearless. You're going to be afraid. You're going to doubt yourself. You're going to wonder if it's even worth it. But you keep going anyway. That's what separates the people who build lives they're proud of from those who settle for less. Fear is normal. Doubt is normal. Struggle is normal. Quitting is optional. And every time you refuse that option, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than your circumstances. Think about the most successful people you admire. Athletes, leaders, creators, entrepreneurs. Do you think they got there without hitting walls? Do you think they never had moments where everything went wrong? They had failures. They had rejection. They had nights where they wanted to give up. But the reason you know their names, the reason you see their success, is because they refused to quit on themselves when it mattered most. That's the only real difference between those who make it and those who don't. But here's where most people slip. They confuse slow progress with failure. If it doesn't happen fast enough, they quit. If they don't see results right away, they quit. If someone else gets there first, they quit. They forget that growth is messy, uneven, frustrating, and sometimes invisible. Refusing to quit means you show up even when you can't see the reward yet. It means you trust the process. It means you keep planting seeds even when you don't see anything breaking the soil. Because eventually, if you keep showing up, the results will come. When you quit on yourself, you teach your brain a dangerous lesson, that your word means nothing, that your promises to yourself are negotiable. And once your brain learns that, it will use it against you forever. Every time things get tough, it will whisper, "You've given up before, you can give up again." That's how habits of failure are built, one quit at a time. But when you refuse to quit, even in the smallest things, you build the opposite habit. You teach your brain, "I finish what I start. I honor my word. I can be trusted." And once you internalize that, you become unstoppable. Quitting isn't just about the moment, it's about the pattern. You've probably seen it. Someone quits on the workout, then they quit on the diet, then they quit on the relationship, then they quit on the career goal. Quitting becomes their default setting. It gets easier every time until it defines them. But refusing to quit can also become a pattern. You push through the workout, then you push through the late night of studying, then you push through the uncomfortable conversation, then you push through the career challenge. That persistence compounds. You build momentum. And eventually, people look at you and say, "How do they do it?" The answer is simple. You just didn't quit. Now, refusing to quit doesn't mean being stubborn about things that aren't meant for you. Sometimes you change direction, sometimes you shift the strategy, sometimes you let go of what doesn't serve your future. That's not quitting. That's evolving. The difference is, you don't walk away from yourself. You don't abandon your own potential. You don't quit on the vision of the person you know you can be. Let me say this clearly. The world is not going to hand you success. It's not going to feel sorry for you. It's not going to roll out a red carpet and beg you to keep going. Life is indifferent. It will test you over and over, and only those who refuse to quit will break through. That's the game, and you decide every day whether you're going to play it or forfeit. So when you wake up tired, when you feel defeated, when everything seems stacked against you, you remind yourself, "I refuse to quit on myself." Because if you quit, what's left? Nobody's going to carry you across the finish line. Nobody's going to drag you to your dreams. You either keep going or you settle for less. And if you settle, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what could have been if you'd just held on a little longer. Here's the truth. Everything you want, respect, strength, success, freedom, sits on the other side of not quitting. The only way you lose is if you stop. The only way you fail is if you give up. You may take longer, you may struggle harder, you may fall more times than you imagined. But if you refuse to quit, you will always rise again. So repeat it until it burns into your brain. I refuse to quit on myself. No matter how tired, no matter how hard, no matter how hopeless it feels, I will not give up on me because I am worth the fight. My potential is worth the fight. My future is worth the fight. And when you live by that, nothing can stop you. I deserve respect from myself first. Let that sink in, because here's the truth. The way you treat yourself sets the tone for how the rest of the world will treat you. Too many people are walking through life begging for respect from others while simultaneously disrespecting themselves every single day. You say you want people to value you, to honor you, to treat you well, but how can they when you don't even treat yourself with dignity? Respect doesn't start out there, it starts in here. And until you recognize that, you'll keep chasing scraps of validation from people who were never capable of giving it to you in the first place. Look at your life. How many times have you let yourself down? How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no? How many times have you tolerated mistreatment just to avoid conflict? How many times have you broken promises to yourself, whether it was about your health, your goals, your boundaries, because you told yourself it didn't matter? That is self-disrespect. Every single time you do it, you're teaching yourself that you're not worthy of better. And the worst part? Other people can see it, they can feel it, they can smell it. If you don't respect yourself, the world will never respect you. Respect isn't something you demand from others first, it's something you radiate. It's a standard you hold so firmly for yourself that people have no choice but to meet it or step aside. And that starts with your daily choices. Do you keep your word to yourself? Do you set boundaries and enforce them? Do you walk away when you're being devalued? Do you hold yourself to a higher standard, not because someone else is watching, but because you know you deserve it? That's where real respect comes from. Not from shouting about your worth, but from living in a way that makes it undeniable. Let's get brutally honest here. Many people are starving for external respect because they've neglected the internal one. You're begging your boss, your partner, your friends to treat you better, but behind closed doors, you treat yourself worse than any of them ever could. You talk down to yourself. You criticize yourself. You sabotage yourself. You don't take care of your health. You numb your pain with distractions. And then you wonder why no one else takes you seriously. Why would they? You've already shown them that even you don't take yourself seriously. Self-respect isn't arrogance. It's not walking around thinking you're better than everyone. It's not entitlement. Self-respect is simply the recognition that you are worthy of dignity, and that worthiness begins with how you behave toward yourself. It's refusing to settle. It's refusing to compromise on your values. It's refusing to stay in places where you're constantly diminished. And it's refusing to apologize for having standards. Ask yourself this: what does someone who respects themselves do daily? They keep their promises, especially the ones they make privately. They don't chase people who don't want them. They don't waste time on gossip, drama, or nonsense that doesn't build them. They take care of their body because they recognize it as the vehicle carrying them through life. They invest in their growth because they know they deserve a better future. They walk with confidence, not because life is perfect, but because they know their value doesn't depend on anyone else's opinion. Now flip the question. What does someone who doesn't respect themselves do? They compromise constantly. They accept less than they deserve. They allow others to cross boundaries repeatedly. They betray themselves for short-term comfort. They complain about how people treat them but never look at how they treat themselves. And most importantly, they live with resentment. Resentment at others, resentment at life, resentment at themselves. That's the cost of self-disrespect. You see, people don't treat you based on who you are. They treat you based on what you allow. If you allow disrespect, you'll get it. If you allow inconsistency, you'll get it. If you allow manipulation, you'll get it. Respecting yourself first means drawing the line. It means saying, this is what I accept and this is what I do not. And when someone crosses that line, you don't argue with them. You don't beg them to change. You enforce the boundary by removing yourself. That's self-respect in action. But here's the catch. Enforcing boundaries externally only works if you've built them internally. If you keep disrespecting your own word, your own health, your own time, then no amount of external boundaries will stick. People will see the cracks in your foundation and push right through them. That's why the first battle for respect is always the one with yourself. You must treat your own word as law. You must treat your own goals as sacred. You must treat your own dignity as non-negotiable. And let me tell you something, when you respect yourself, people notice. They notice the way you carry yourself. They notice the way you speak, the way you walk into a room, the way you decline nonsense. You don't even have to demand respect. It comes to you. Because people can see when you've built a strong relationship with yourself. And they know instinctively that they either rise to meet it or get left behind. Respecting yourself first is also about rejecting self-abuse. Stop calling yourself names. Stop doubting your abilities before you even try. Stop replaying every mistake as proof that you're unworthy. You are not your failures. You are not your worst day. You are not the sum of everyone else's judgment. Respect means acknowledging that you are a work in progress and still deserving of love, effort, and dignity along the way. So say it with conviction. I deserve respect from myself first. That means I stop breaking promises to myself. That means I set boundaries and enforce them without guilt. That means I take care of my body, my mind, my time, and my energy like they matter. That means I stop apologizing for having standards and stop chasing people who don't meet them. Because here's the reality, once you respect yourself, everything else shifts. Relationships change. Opportunities change. Your confidence changes. The entire trajectory of your life changes. People will rise to meet the bar you set, or they'll fall away, and either outcome is a win, because you've stopped begging for scraps of respect, and you've started living as someone who demands it by default. Respect starts and ends with you, and until you honor yourself first, nothing else will ever align. So today, draw the line. Hold the standard, live it daily, and never forget the words, I deserve respect from myself first. I will focus on progress, not perfection. That's a statement that will save you from destroying yourself. Because perfection is a lie. It's a moving target, a standard you will never reach, no matter how hard you try. And the more you chase it, the more frustrated, exhausted, and defeated you'll feel. Perfection is the trap that keeps people frozen, stuck in fear, unwilling to take the next step because they're terrified it won't be flawless. And in that paralysis, life passes them by. But progress, that's real. Progress is measurable. Progress is achievable. Progress is what builds confidence, strength, and momentum. Too many people quit because they can't do something perfectly the first time. They start a workout, stumble once, and say, I failed. They start a business, hit a roadblock, and say, this isn't for me. They try to learn a skill, get embarrassed, and walk away. But the truth is, nobody gets it perfect the first time. Nobody gets it perfect the 10th time. The people who win aren't the ones who aim for perfection. They're the ones who keep showing up, making mistakes, learning, and adjusting. They're the ones who chase progress. Perfection sounds noble, but it's poison. It tells you nothing is ever enough. It whispers in your ear that you can't start until you're ready, can't speak until you're confident, can't act until you're flawless. It convinces you to delay your life, waiting for a moment of readiness that will never arrive. And meanwhile, progress is available to you every single day. Did you do one thing better than yesterday? Did you learn one new lesson? Did you push one step further? That's progress. And progress compounds. Small wins stack up into massive victories over time. Think about it. If you improved by just 1% every day, in 1 year, you wouldn't be 1% better. You'd be 37 times better. That's the power of progress. But perfection blinds you to those small gains. It tricks you into thinking they don't count because they're not big enough. So you dismiss them, and in doing so, you throw away the very building blocks of success. Here's the reality. Progress is messy. It doesn't look pretty. It's full of mistakes, failures, and setbacks. And that's exactly how it should be, because every mistake teaches you something you didn't know. Every setback reveals a weakness you need to strengthen. Every failure sharpens you in ways success never could. That's growth. That's progress. Perfection avoids the mess. Progress thrives in it. When you hold yourself to perfection, you also live in constant fear of judgment. You're terrified of what people will think if you stumble, if you fall short, if you expose the fact that you're human. But here's the thing, people aren't impressed by perfection. They're inspired by resilience. They're moved by watching someone fall down and get back up again. Nobody relates to flawless. People relate to real. And progress is real. Focusing on progress also frees you from the prison of comparison. Perfection says you need to measure up to everyone else, to be better than them, to match their highlight reels. Progress says you only need to be better than who you were yesterday. It shifts the competition from external to internal. And that's the only competition that matters. You're not here to outdo everyone else. You're here to outgrow yourself. And let's be honest, perfection isn't even about excellence. It's about control. It's about ego. It's about trying to prove something to the world. Progress, on the other hand, is about growth. It's about humility. It's about saying, I don't know everything yet, but I'm willing to learn. I don't have it all together, but I'm moving forward. That attitude will take you further than any obsession with flawlessness ever could. So what does it look like to focus on progress in real life? It looks like celebrating the small wins. It looks like showing up for the workout, even if it's only for 20 minutes, instead of an hour. It looks like writing one page of the book, even if it isn't perfect. It looks like making one better choice with food, money, or relationships, even if you can't fix everything at once. It looks like acknowledging effort as much as outcome. That's how you build momentum. That's how you build a life. You want to know a secret? Perfectionists often achieve less than the people they look down on. Why? Because while they're paralyzed, waiting for perfect conditions, the person focused on progress is already moving. They're already learning. They're already stacking small wins. And over time, those small wins crush the illusion of perfection, because consistency always beats intensity. Done is always better than perfect. Progress also keeps you patient with yourself. It reminds you that transformation takes time. Nobody builds strength overnight. Nobody masters a skill in a week. Nobody heals instantly. Progress allows you to honor the process, to recognize that you're not supposed to have it all figured out right now, to accept that stumbling is part of learning, and to see the beauty in becoming instead of obsessing over being. The truth is, perfection will rob you of joy. You'll never feel good enough, never feel ready, never feel satisfied. But progress will fuel you. It will give you reasons to keep going. It will let you look back and see how far you've come, even if you're not where you want to be yet. And that perspective, that proof that you're moving forward, is what keeps people going when others give up. So remind yourself daily, I will focus on progress, not perfection. I will stop waiting to be flawless before I begin. I will celebrate small wins. I will measure myself against who I was yesterday, not against who someone else is today. I will embrace the mess of growth, the setbacks, the lessons, and the victories, because progress is what builds strength. Progress is what builds resilience. Progress is what builds greatness. Perfection doesn't exist. Progress does. And if you commit to it every single day, you'll look back one day and realize you became the person perfectionists only dreamed of being, because while they were waiting, you were working. I am stronger than my excuses. Say it again, louder this time, because that sentence is the difference between a life of mediocrity and a life of meaning. Excuses are the invisible chains that keep people stuck. They sound reasonable, they sound logical, they even sound comforting, but they're lies dressed as truth. Excuses whisper to you, you're too tired, you're too busy, you're not ready, you don't have enough. And if you listen, you'll spend your whole life standing still, watching other people move forward while you wonder why you never got your shot. But here's the truth, the only thing standing between you and what you want is the excuse you keep feeding. And you are stronger than that. Excuses are easy because they relieve you of responsibility. When you say, I don't have time, you don't have to admit that you wasted hours scrolling. When you say, I can't afford it, you don't have to admit you've been careless with your money. When you say, I'm not ready, you don't have to face the fear of starting. Excuses protect you from discomfort, but they also protect you from growth. They might shield your ego for a moment, but they steal your future forever. The real problem with excuses is that they become your identity if you repeat them long enough. You tell yourself you're too tired, and soon exhaustion defines you. You tell yourself you're too busy, and suddenly busyness becomes your badge of honor, even though you're not moving forward. You tell yourself you're not ready, and soon unpreparedness becomes who you are. But you're not any of those things. You're just someone who's let excuses do the talking for too long. The moment you remind yourself, I am stronger than my excuses, you take the microphone back. Think about every achievement you've ever had, big or small. Getting through school, pushing through a hard workout, surviving heartbreak, making it through a tough job. Every one of those required you to ignore excuses. At some point, you had to say, I don't care how tired I am, I'm doing this. I don't care how scared I am, I'm going for it. I don't care if I don't feel like it, I'm showing up. And when you did, you proved to yourself that excuses only have power if you obey them. Every victory you've had in life was built on a moment where you were stronger than your excuse. Here's the raw truth. Excuses don't vanish. You will never reach a point where you don't feel them. They'll always show up. Every time you're about to do something hard, something meaningful, something that matters, your mind will try to talk you out of it. That's normal. That's human. But your strength comes from knowing the voice of the excuse doesn't decide your future. You do. Discipline is choosing action over excuses again and again until it becomes automatic. You want to know the worst part about excuses? They sound like your friend. They comfort you. They say, take it easy. You deserve a break. Don't push yourself. You've had a long day. Wait until tomorrow. You'll feel more ready. But excuses are liars. They disguise themselves as self-care, as logic, as compassion. But real compassion for yourself is pushing yourself toward growth. Real self-care is discipline. Real love for yourself is refusing to let comfort destroy your potential. And let's not pretend. Sometimes your excuses will sound convincing. Sometimes they'll have evidence. Sometimes they'll even be partially true. Maybe you are tired. Maybe you are busy. Maybe you are scared. But here's the thing. You're still stronger. You've been tired before and still showed up. You've been busy before and still made time. You've been scared before and still took the leap. Every time you did, you proved the excuse wrong. That's why you can't let them win now. If you want to build confidence, kill your excuses. Confidence doesn't come from pep talks. It doesn't come from wishing. It comes from proof. Every time you choose discipline over excuses, you collect evidence that you're capable. That evidence stacks up. And one day, you'll look at yourself in the mirror and realize you don't just believe you're stronger than your excuses, you know it, because you've proved it again and again. Excuses will cost you opportunities. They'll cost you relationships. They'll cost you growth. They'll cost you the life you want. Every excuse you choose is a trade. You trade your future for comfort in the moment, and most people don't realize the price they're paying until years have passed and they're living with regret. Don't let that be you. Refuse to let excuses steal what you know you're capable of. When the alarm goes off and you don't want to get up, remind yourself, I am stronger than my excuses. When you're about to skip the work you know you need to do, remind yourself, I am stronger than my excuses. When fear is screaming at you not to take the risk, remind yourself, I am stronger than my excuses. Say it until it becomes automatic. Say it until it becomes who you are. Because here's the truth, you don't need to feel ready to act. You don't need to feel motivated to move. You don't need perfect circumstances to begin. You just need to remind yourself that the excuses will always be there and you will always be stronger. Strength isn't about never hearing the excuses. Strength is about hearing them, feeling them, and choosing to move anyway. So from now on, don't waste time arguing with your excuses. Don't negotiate with them. Don't give them a seat at the table. Acknowledge them, then prove them wrong. Again and again, because every time you do, you become stronger, more disciplined, more unstoppable. Say it like a mantra. Live it like a truth. I am stronger than my excuses. My future is worth more than comfort. My goals are worth more than fear. My life is worth more than lies. And I refuse to let excuses decide who I become. Let's bring this all together. Every day you wake up, you face a choice. To drift through life letting excuses, fear, and other people's opinions run the show, or to take the wheel and live with power, intention, and self-respect. You've heard the words, I am in control of my life. I refuse to quit on myself. I deserve respect from myself first. I will focus on progress, not perfection. I am stronger than my excuses. These aren't just motivational slogans. They are weapons. They are shields. They are the foundation of a mindset that cannot be broken. Life will never stop testing you. It will never stop pushing back. And there will always be a reason to stop, to wait, to give up. But if you carry these 5 truths with you, if you repeat them until they're burned into your bones, you'll have what most people never build, an inner strength that nothing can take away. Don't waste your life waiting for perfect conditions. Don't waste your life chasing respect from people who don't even respect themselves. Don't waste your life making excuses for why you can't, when the truth is, you can. Stop outsourcing your power. Stop negotiating your worth. Stop treating yourself like an afterthought. You have one life, one shot, and every day is a chance to prove to yourself who you are and what you stand for. So when doubt creeps in, when excuses start whispering, when fear tries to paralyze you, you look yourself in the mirror and say, I am in control. I refuse to quit. I deserve respect. I focus on progress. I am stronger than my excuses. And then you go out into the world and live it. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. Because today is the only day you've got, and you will never get it back. So walk tall, speak with conviction, move with purpose, and never forget, you are stronger than you think, and you are always more powerful than the lies trying to hold you back. This is your life. Own it.